So, we have done the first three books of the second part, the birth and the quest, the book of love, and the book of fate. We are keeping aside for some time the next book, the fourth book of the second part, the book of yoga, and jumping straight to the book of death, book 8. Now, just to give a little background of what preceded or rather what precedes the book of death in the present text of Savitri is what we are here, the seventh canto of the book of yoga. Savitri was receiving instructions to do her yoga for a specific purpose. Do this, do this, do this, do this. At every stage, she was getting the guidance from Divine Savitri. And the human Savitri was proceeding according to that guidance. At one point, she was told to annul herself totally, to be nothing, God's zero, absolute zero. Savitri had discovered her soul. The divine Savitri has established herself in the soul of Savitri. So all the centers of her activity, of the subtle body, are now charged with the power of the divine Savitri. All the centers of activity, chakras as we call them. So at that point, Savitri is told, look, Savitri, what you have done is very good. But this is the first step towards perfection. You have discovered your soul, you have established the divine power in your soul, you have established the divine power in the subtle physical, but that is the first step towards perfection. Now, in fact, it is here you can see the difference. Sri Aurobindo Yoga begins with the discovery of the soul. From that point onward, something else has to happen. What is that else? Yes, first stage of perfection is achieved. The point is, she is told, soul, all right, you have found soul, you have the power of the soul now in you, but what about your nature? Your nature is still the same old inconscient nature. The physical, the vital, the mental, everything still belongs to the inconscious. What about that? Therefore, the discovery of the soul is the first step. The conquest, the change, the transformation, or dealing with the nature is the important thing which she has to pursue now. And therefore, she was advised to annul herself totally, completely, empty herself out fully. Whatever she had, she has to pour out from her being, totally, completely. Become absolutely open, void to receive nothing but the divine power, the powers of the Spirit, you see. Your nature should also open to that. And therefore, the canto's name, sixth canto of the book of yoga, is Nirvana. Nirvana means you are really blowing out yourself totally into emptiness. That is the real sense of nirvana. All that belongs to the physical nature, to the vital nature, to the mental nature has to go away. Then only the divine power can come, reside in it, and do its work unhindered by the forces of lower nature. If they are present, you cannot really do freely what you would like to do, you see. So she is told to empty herself out fully. Annul yourself, that only God be. That is what she is told, that only God be. Annul yourself, that only God be. Let us see if we can get that. 128.3.1. We'll quickly see the steps which Savitri has to now follow after the discovery of the soul. O soul, bear not thy kingdom to the foe. Yes, it's a very precious soul now. Don't expose it to the enemy. Preserve it, protect it, guard it. Consent to hide the royalties of bliss, lest time and fate find out its avenues and beat with thunderous knock upon thy gate. They will come and invade you, time and fate. Guard your soul. It is your precious possession now. Hide whilst thou can the treasure of separate self behind the luminous rampart of thy depths, till of a vast empire it grows part. Yes, remain aloof. Guard it. Guard it for what? Not for yourself. But not for self alone. The self is one. You want to guard yourself, not for the sake of yourself. Content abide not with one conquered realm. Adventure all to make the whole world thine. Yes, you have achieved, but what about the world? What about the collective? To break into greater kingdoms, turn thy foes. Into greater kingdoms, to turn thy foes. That is the mission of Savitri. The discovery of the soul is the precondition. You have achieved that condition, precondition. From this point onward, now you have to proceed. And then she is to fear not to be nothing, that thou mayst be all. Be nothing first. By becoming nothing, then you will become all. Unless you empty out the cup, you cannot have the true contents in the cup. If you keep something back and if you pour on that, it will get mixed up. It can be not a very healthy thing for you to do if you mix up that. You see. Accept to be small and human on earth, interrupting thy newborn divinity. Newborn divinity. Savitri has discovered her soul. That is the newborn divinity of Savitri. That man may find his utter self in God. Okay, then she goes on further. Thou hast come down into a struggling world to aid a blind and suffering mortal race. That is the mission of your life. Struggling world, you have come for that purpose. To aid blind and suffering mortal race. To open to light the eyes that could not see. To bring down bliss into the heart of grief. To make thy life a bridge betwixt earth and heaven. See the golden bridge. That is the golden bridge which you have to build between earth and heaven. She becomes the golden bridge when she has done this, when she has emptied herself out. She is the golden bridge, the wonderful fire. But when she has annulled herself totally. That is the condition for becoming a golden bridge. To make thy life a bridge betwixt earth and heaven, if thou wouldst save the toiling universe, the vast universal suffering feel as thine. Thou must bear the sorrow that thou claims to heal. If you don't accept the sorrow of this world, how can you heal the sorrow? The day-bringer must walk in darkest night. He who would save the world must share its pain. Savitri must accept that. If he knows not grief, how shall he find grief's cure? Obviously, if the gods want to save us from grief, they must experience grief. For that they must come down here. Not by remaining heaven can they really save us from grief. At the most what they can do is they can pull us to heaven, but don't save us from grief. See? If far he walks above mortality's head, how shall the mortal reach that too high a path? Okay, and then God must be born on earth and be as man. That man, being human, may grow even as God. That is what Savitri has to do. Yes, you are not human, you are human, you are not God. But that does not mean that you cannot become God. You have to become God here on earth. He who save the world must be one with the world. All suffering things contain in his heart's space and bear the grief and joy of all that live. All suffering things contain in his heart's space. That is what Savitri is. Love in her was wider than the universe. The whole world could take refuge in a single heart. His soul must be wider. There you are, you see. His soul must be wider than the universe and feel eternity as its very stuff, rejecting the moment's personality. Know itself older than the birth of time. So long before time began, he was already there. He is beyond time. He is a part of eternity who steps into time. He is already there before time comes into existence. Creation and incident in his consciousness. Arcturus and Belphegor, grains of fire, the great objects and beings like Arcturus. Arcturus is one of the brightest stars, suns in the sky. What is that after all? It is only a grain of fire, small fire. Circling in a corner of his boundless self, the world's destruction, a small transient storm, in the calm infinity it has become. If thou wouldst a little loosen the vast chain, draw back from the world that the idea has made, thy mind selection from the infinite, thy senses gloss on the infinitables are done, then shalt thou know how the great bondage came. If you be free of your idea, then you will know what the bondage is. You have to be first free. You have your own fixed notions. Because this idea belongs to the mental plane. What you have to have is the real idea. The real idea belongs to the supramental world. You are bound here by idea, by mental conceptions, by notions of mind and things like that. You have to go beyond that. Draw back from the world that the idea has made. You are a mental being, you see. That shall thou know the great bondage came. Therefore she says, banish all thought from thee. Banish all thought from thee and be God's void. That is the precondition. Banish all thought from thee and be God's void. Thought idea, they belong to the mental plane. You have to go beyond that. You should be thoughtless, thought-less, without any thought. If you are empty of that, then you are God's void. In a certain sense, it is equivalent to silent mind, without any thought. Sri Bindu had that first experience around 1st January 1908 of silent mind in Baroda. 1st January 1908, silent mind. And it is that which he had gifted to the mother when they met first on 29th March 1914, you see, the silent mind. Now, that is a precondition. Banish all thought. That is Nirvana in a way. Or you can say passive Brahman here. But here, this is more than that. Absolutely no thought. She's told to do. Now, how to do? That she has to work out. She'll get guidance. You see. If you have removed all thought, means all your conceptions, ideas, notions of things which you have got of the mental being, they have to go away. There is something more than that beyond the mental being. Then shall thou uncover the unknowable. The unknown is not known. The unknown can be known. The unknown can be known. But the unknowable is not really knowable. It is beyond description, beyond any conception, beyond any expression also. It is the ineffable. Now, the power of emptying yourself out, of being God's void, is that you can even uncover the unknowable. That is the beauty of it. If you are becoming God's void, then you can have an access to the unknowable. The unknowable can be known, can become knowable when you have become God's void. And superconscient conscious grow on thy tops. That is Satchidananda consciousness. Infinity is vision, through thy gaze shall pierce. Thou shalt look into the eyes of the unknown. Now, with that capacity of uncovering the unknowable, then you can look into the unknown. Find the hid truth in things seen, null and false. This world which is there, which you have been calling as mithya, illusion, false, unreality, you will know its truth once you have that vision. Behind things known, discover mysteries rare. So this is an experience which goes far, far beyond the Vedantic experience. That although it is unknowable, the unknowable can become sort of graspable if you have emptied out yourself fully. That is the power of becoming God's void. Thou shalt be one with God's bare reality, and the miraculous world He has become, and the diviner miracle still to be. Yes, this is what will happen, but that is not the end of it. You have achieved so far the first perfection. You have discovered your soul. That is the first step towards perfection. But beyond that, there is another perfection of diviner miracle. This nature which is born of inconscience, should become a part of superconscious, should become a part of divine. When nature, who is now unconscious God, translucent grows to the eternal light, that is the real perfection. Her seeing his sight, her walk, his steps of power, and life is filled with a spiritual joy, and matter is the spirit's willing bride. So she is herself to the power of the spirit. Consent to be nothing and none. You are nobody, absolutely nobody. Dissolve time's work, cast off thy mind. Cast off thy mind, step back from form and name. This objective reality which is there, this subjective reality which is there, you have to even go beyond that. Name and form, name, nama, rupa, that is what we call nama and rupa. These are all names and rupa, form, figures. Beyond that, you have to go and see the reality behind it. Each object has its own basic reality. It is that which you have to see. Annul thyself that only God may be. Now, this is the most powerful instruction Savitri gives. This is the last instruction Savitri gives in her yoga. Yoga towards transformation. Yoga towards conquest of death. Annul thyself that only God may be. Only when God is there in you, then only you can meet death, face death and conquer him. If you are containing something, you are holding something back in you which belongs to inconscience, then death will pounce upon you and catch you there. You have to throw away that thing. You have to have no link at all, so to say, with inconsciousness. Annul thyself that only God may be. Now, this is the instruction which Savitri gets, and of course, she does all her yoga, etc., 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 and proceeds. And finally, what happens is something beautiful. Let us read some of those last lines. So, what happened after that, after the realization? A lowly absolute negated all. 130.46. Lowly absolute. Nothing of Savitri. It effaced the ignorant world from its solitude and drowned the soul in its everlasting peace. That is the kind of peace Savitri gets now, after annulling herself totally and becoming God.